members, and welcome to the virtual meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts of the Western Cape Provincial Legislature. I think we can start because I think all the members that are supposed to be present in terms of the rules of order are present. I just want, before we may start, and I must ask members to indicate and introduce themselves. Mr. Procedural Officer, are there any apologies?
Chairperson, good afternoon. No, Chairperson, there's no apologies from my side, Chair.
Okay, in the absence of that, once again, I would like to repeat, honorable members, this is a meeting of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and it is held virtually, and therefore the rules that govern virtual meetings of the provincial legislature applies. Now, I would like to get an indication just if the members of the committee and other members of the provincial legislature can introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Thanks for having us again. And my name is Mahlodi Maseko, member of the Standing Committee.
Thanks. Thanks, Honorable Maseko.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Derek America, member of the committee.
Welcome. Compliments of the new year.
Thank you, Chair.
Deirdre Baartman, member of the committee.
Welcome. Thanks, Advocate. And then I think is that it in terms of the honorable members that are present so far. I think then if Honorable Nkondlo. Honorable Nkondlo. I thought it was Honorable Nkondlo speaking, but anyway. The other members might join us as we are actually proceeding. As I've just indicated, it has gone 2 o'clock, so I want us to start. The purpose of the meeting is to look at the annual report of the Department of Human Settlement. We will also join by members of the Auditor General Office of South Africa. Now, the first part is an in-committee and therefore confidential meeting, and only members of the provincial legislature, members of the committee and those members of the provincial legislature are allowed to the meeting, as well as members of the Auditor General and also the Audit Committee as well. Now, if I may just then hand over to the Auditor General. General as well as the Audit Committee. I'm going to hand over to you, Honorable Minister.
Sorry, Chairperson, Lizette. Can you just allow ICT 2 minutes to go live on YouTube? 2 minutes.
No problem. No problem. You'll just give us an indication once they are ready.
You may be ready, Chairperson.
Go for it, Honorable Minister.
Oh, thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members of this Oversight Committee, which is a very crucial body to hold not only the Ministry, but also the department accountable. But for the year under review, Honorable Chair, this department has once again managed to obtain a clean audit while also obtaining the most of its target that it has set for itself, many times under very difficult circumstances. So I thank you for this opportunity, and we look forward to a thorough
Mr.
engagement.
Chairman,
with this
can
committee.
members please switch off their mics?
Thanks, Honorable Mare. You can continue, Minister.
No problem. As I said, looking forward for you with this engagement with this body. But like I said, we've come from a clean audit. We've managed to attain the bulk of our targets we've set for ourselves, many times under very difficult circumstances. But by working together with all communities and all key stakeholders, we ensure that we attain our targets, but also that we ensure that we do in such a manner that we manage to obtain a clean audit, as was confirmed by the Auditor General. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks, Chairperson. Thanks, Honorable Minister. HOD.
Chairman, can I have your attention? I'm still hearing the minister speaking. What's going on?
I don't know, because I don't hear him.
He's still speaking.
Is he echoing? Are
No,
you?
I don't know what IT is doing. They're still
No.
talking.
Okay, just hang on, Honorable Mare. Do other members also experiencing the same problem?
No, Chair, we are not.
No, Chair, we're good.
No,
Okay.
we're not.
Okay, I think maybe there might be a problem with the Honorable Mare's device then. But it's fine. We'll see if IT can be able to assist. It might just be echoes that are happening. That
I hear myself now. Speaker, Chairman, I'll leave the meeting because it's impossible to follow. But thank you.
It's still continuing.
It's still continuing. So I'll rather leave the meeting than to cause discomfort to the rest of the members.
No, what we can do, Honorable Mare, we wouldn't like you to leave the meeting because of this. Let's see if the IT cannot specifically just attend to your problem. Maybe it might just be a problem because if other members don't experience it, there might be a problem maybe directly with your line. So you leaving the meeting would like it to be the last resort that you'd like to get involved in. So I would ask the IT if they can please attend to that. HOD.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to everyone else present, our colleagues. Firstly, thank you to Minister Simmers for the opening remarks. From our side, the department side and the administration side, we'd like to acknowledge the oversight and assistance provided by the Audit Committee, especially in preparation for today's session, and also the Department of the Premier, especially the Enterprise Risk Management Unit and other assurance units that provide us with support throughout the financial year to enable us to report on the finances of the department at today's session. Thank you. I've got my full team with me around the table and some have logged in. So we are all equipped and prepared to respond to any questions and queries. Thank you.
So that means with that then, HOD and Honorable Minister, we can go straight to the questions in terms of the report. Honorable members, I would like then to present to you the section C of the report of the Department of Human Settlement, which start from page 74 of the report up to page 90. Can I get an indication of questions? I see Honorable America, Honorable Maseko, in that order.
Hi. Can I go, Chair?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister and Ms. Sampson. Congratulations on your clean audit, and it's rather a difficult department, and to improve on your audit of the previous financial year is quite remarkable. Thank you so much. So, Chair, the question I would like to ask is a question that I've asked in the previous meeting with regard to risks that were identified by the department, and the audit committee also identified additional risks that were not or that were communicated to the department. The responses I received from both the AG's office and the audit committee seem to be from different sort of perspectives. One being from the AG's office, they view risk as a possible financial loss in the future for the department. Whereas the audit committee, on the other hand, you know, the perspective they give on risk is that the impact it will have on service delivery in terms of the department's mandate. So, given that two perspectives, how does the department view it, or do they consider both perspectives and adjust the planning accordingly? And secondly, I've also asked the risk of fire, that's an annual sort of occurrence in our informal settlements, particularly in the metro, as well as perpetual land invasions across the province, falls within the second categorization of risk, in a sense that additional resources need to be allocated to combat and mitigate that risk, and hence a sort of lesser resources can be available to execute the mandate. So, but also the department doesn't emphasize that particular risk sufficiently, and to provide the committee or the standing committee with adequate reason as to, you know, what are the factors that they would sort of consider and execute to mitigate those risks. That's number one. Then the second question, Chair, relates to fraud and corruption, and the department has a very sort of in conjunction with the Department of the Premier and its Forensic Services Division, has a protocol as to how they deal with whistleblowers. And we know from revelations that occurred at the Zondo Commission and the subsequent sort of knowledge that's out there in the public domain, is that whistleblowers are very courageous people, but often, regardless of the Protective Disclosures Act, there's not sufficient sort of protection for whistleblowers. Does the department, you know, have a degree of protection that will insulate whistleblowers from adverse sort of impacts upon their careers, upon their continued employment. And then, Chair, last question for now is that the audit committee sort of flagged I wouldn't say concern, but they put it out there in a sense that the cost impact of compliance and our desire to get a clean audit and that it could possibly divert resources away from areas where enhanced service delivery could take place. Does the department have a similar sort of view that for us to obtain the clean audit is very good, very sort of admirable because we're doing things right, but does the costs of compliance justify the sort of ability to enhance service delivery? I'm going to stop here. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable America. And the next person was
Honorable Maseko.
Yes, Honorable Maseko.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, just a quick one, I think one or two. On page 76 on the governance, under the key strategy risks considered and addressed during the year. One of the highlighted one is the linking to above. If I can I'm just going to cut short on that. And it talks about the linking to the above and also driven by the growth of population is the lack of bulk services. The informal settlement support plan and various grants provides the mechanism to address this. So the problem is that the bulk services, but the informal settlement support plan, the department saying it's addressing that. I just want to find out, because the bulk services in most of the projects for the Department of Human Settlements, it is a problem. And I'm just going to make an example so that I can conceptualize this to the department. You have the municipality like Cedarburg. In Citrusdal, there's been an upgrading of an informal settlement years ago. The problem that is there for the other projects to be implemented has been the bulk services. The money was allocated to the municipality for that. That has been going on for years and years. But when you go there, you can still feel the smell. Now, I just want to find out from the department, I mean, for the future, the readiness of implementation of this upgrading of informal settlements, it has to go with the bulk services. Is it now, as they mention it here, that is when they say project is ready to include the bulk services, that it can, does it have capacity to carry that community that will be there, or the population within that project? Or how do you interlink? Because I tend to believe that the bulk services is not the mandate all the time of the human settlements. Is the Department of Local Government, and then that's where they sometimes get the MIC funding on excluding maybe the metro, because they've got the grant that they get specific to that. Now, if you put that is being addressed, and there are areas that you can identify that is a problem, how do you explain to mitigate that you are attending to that, whilst it's not your mandate to be able to do that? I would love to hear from the department that in addressing this key strategic risk, talking about the bulk services, how do they go about? And the second one, it will be on the broad-based Black economic empowerment compliance performance information on the page 90. I see on the developing criteria for entering into partnerships with the private sector is not applicable. I just want to find out, because I know Minister has been talking a lot that because of the budget cuts, private partnership, it will be something that has to be the norm to try to eradicate the backlog of the housing. The private companies have to come into play for housing within our communities. Now, if we don't have something that sort of interlinked to the now norm of this country of the triple BEE, what is the reason for that not to be applicable to the department? Maybe for me to understand, there must be something that maybe I'm missing there. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Maseko. HOD Minister. Oh, sorry, just before we give the HOD, I see Honorable Mare would like to ask a question.
Thank you so much, Chair. The thing that bothers me with all this discussions is there's two things the department failed to do to satisfy the courts. Number one, they don't have any law that says we define adequate housing as the following minimum standards. The Constitution don't say that you have a right to a shack. Doesn't say you have a right to live under cardboard. It says you have a right of access to adequate housing. And that's what these community organizations depend on, adequate housing. But then the people live in shacks. That's not adequate. So why don't they pass a law to define what is adequate housing and what is a squatter? What must be the criteria for a squatter? It can't be a man who has the money, refuse to pay rent, and decide to go and live in an open field where he has no responsibility to pay for water and rent. So he prefers that lifestyle. Does he qualify as a squatter to get a free house now? Can't we define what are the minimum criteria to qualify to live informally? And can we then have a law to say this is what is meant by adequate housing as stipulated in the Constitution, so that the courts can't every time come and say, you can't move the man, he has a right to adequate housing. But if he stay under a bush, the courts can't rule that's adequate housing and he can't be removed. I want to hear the minister on that. I've been in politics very long, but I've never seen so much red tape and things that the government is paralyzed, and they paralyze themselves.
Thanks, Honorable Mare. Minister HOD.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'll go first, and then I'll allow the more technical nuances from my HOD and the relevant Chief Directorate. To Honorable America, your question relating to the one risk, which is fire in informal settlements. Firstly, we need to understand that local government or your local municipality, they have a risk register. And I think there's just 2 or 3 in this province who have not kept the risk registers up to date. And why am I referring to that? Because as a municipality, and I'll take the city of Cape Town, for instance, because we are in fire season, they have a fire risk register. They have a plan to address that as well, due to the cycles of fire disasters in the city of Cape Town. So they have a risk. They've identified how to mitigate it, and they can fairly accurately say where the normal fires will occur. The problem is when you have fires that are manufactured by humans. That is not a natural phenomenon, and we did see over the festive break a massive fire, and all indications are that fire was initiated by individuals themselves attempting to clear land for land invasions. So there are certain risks which the local governments really can prepare for. And how does that feed into human settlements? Because ultimately, we work with the local sphere of government to find out and find new mechanisms of how we can effectively address the issue of the continuous fire risks in informal settlements. But I'll just ask at my HOD expand on the more technical details, because we do have various programs where we do partner with the University of Stellenbosch, for instance, and other key partners in key informal settlement areas, so Honorable America. Honorable Maseko, you refer to page 76.2.4, the issue of bulk services in the ISSP. Once again, the fundamental risk is bulk services, of which the provision thereof is the fundamental responsibility of the local sphere of government. But many a times, to unlock certain opportunities, my department has worked with the local sphere of government, because we need to be quite honest with one another. The grants that are supposed to assist local government will never be adequate enough to unlock the housing opportunities or even the upgrading potential in certain informal settlements if we don't assist them in some form or another. But bulk services are a big issue because of the cost related to that, and that is also a risk which local government identified when we had a joint session with local government last November with all the mayors in the province. And this was one of the key issues that was flagged by the mayors themselves and the municipal managers. Member Marie, as you are aware, last year, the Western Cape High Court issued a judgment. It was a case which was brought forward to the court by the South African Human Rights Commission and the EFF. That case has two portions. We joined the second leg of that court case. The first part is now being taken on appeal, specifically because of how the Western Cape High Court judgment defined what they saw as a dwelling. And hence, when we joined the second part of the court case, it's specifically for that, because we do believe that as government, we should have the right to exercise our right to ensure that land that's earmarked for human settlements development is not invaded. And hence, we do need further clarity on that. But at the moment, we are a law-abiding province. We are a law-abiding department. We need to respect the rule of law, but also the right to appeal certain outcomes, because it has massive ramifications and implications moving into the future should that High Court judgment stand. So we will now await the outcome of that appeal to see what is going to happen there, Member Marie. But Member Marie, we also need to understand, and you touched on that, and if you read the judgment which was handed down, the way that the Western Cape High Court perceives what a dwelling is, that is very, very worrisome. It has massive implications for private land ownership and for state-owned land because of that judgment. And I think at some other stage, one will need to engage that judgment thoroughly through the relevant standing committee in my case, because it does have implications for future planning purposes for human settlements as well. But until such time that appeal has been heard and the final judgment has been levied or read out by the Supreme Court of Appeal, I will have to respect the rule of law, but also respect the outcome, whichever it may be, when the Supreme Court of Appeal do make judgment in due course. I will now hand over to my HOD. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you to the members for the questions. Firstly, Member America's question on risks. When we do assess risks and the resources that's required, we do evaluate what is the possible risk of loss of resources or loss of assets, particularly when we consider land invasions, when there is infrastructure developed already and we have to provide services or security services which we haven't budgeted for. And of course, that does impact on other projects or plans that we wanted to implement with the limited budget we have. We also, as Minister Simmers indicated, with the risks of fires, particularly in informal settlements, it is more prevalent. Through our informal settlement support plan and the forums we have, we do engage with the leadership in those informal settlements and assist with educating them on reducing the risk of fires. We've also partnered with the University of Stellenbosch, where we're looking at that risk assessment and ensuring that we equip through the research, are able to assist or equip the
informal settlement dwellers with information on how the risk can be reduced. So we're now looking at, we also have a tool, and I can make the information available. There is a study and a free ebook. We're also looking at, so we give regular feedback to municipalities and give them guidance through the leadership, but we're also looking at improving the design of the shacks, also to be more fire resistant. And there we partnered with the Creative Institute, where they've looked at specific shacks, at not just in shack development or shack building, not only to be fire resistant, but also improve energy efficiency. So it is a partnership with different entities, higher learning, as well as other institutions or organizations that deal with this type of thing. When one looks at the risk in service delivery, of course, last year with the increase in land invasions, we had to reallocate our resources. But again, we look at what the risk is of losing that. And in our instance, where there's infrastructure, we have to protect that. Not just the infrastructure, but we also have to protect the land against invasion of the beneficiary or omitting the opportunity for the rightful beneficiary to obtain that opportunity. I'll ask my CFO to deal with a question on how we deal with whistleblowers and whether sufficient protection is provided, as well as compliance versus service delivery. Thank you, Chairperson. I'll hand over to Mr. Francois de Wet. He won't be on camera, but he'll be on speaker. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honourable members and Chairperson, Minister, and everybody taking part in this meeting or on YouTube. Just on the whistleblowers whistle-blow their whistles by forensic services, and I do believe that they are very, very much protected. We as a department do not go after whistleblowers. We respect their view, and when they try to bring something to the attention of the authorities and to the department. Sometimes the agenda of those whistleblowers are not very, very sound, and unfortunately, currently, the officials are not being protected against these false whistleblowers that sometimes happen. We have knowledge of those ones. Just on the emerging risks, Member America versus the AG and the audit committee. The AG, it seems, more concerned about the accounting and the disclosure of those new changes that's coming to the fore in the accounting part, while the audit committee is very much focused on the service delivery part and efficiency and economic utilization of the resources that we are being allocated, and they are assisting us there. The issue of compliance versus service delivery. Service delivery, or the lack of service delivery, is very often blamed on compliance and red tape, and it should not be like that. If you do your work right, then compliance should not be an issue. That is the stance of this department. We are, when there is anything that's contentious, we will liaise with people with more knowledge, maybe like Provincial Treasury, internal audit. All of them are part of this department, and we then will make a decision on how to go forward. If the risk is too high of non-compliance, then we will leave that specific one. But currently, our track record of delivery, and then also the spending part, and then audit outcomes does state that the department have a well-balanced appetite how to deal with this one. Mrs. Baseko, Member Baseko, on page 90, you your question was around procurement and then the BBBE that is not applicable to partnerships. The BBBE is applicable to in terms of procurement, and therefore the partnership part is not on there. We are not showing away partners if they are not from the designated group. We utilize all partners that can assist us, as partnerships should not have conditions attached to it. So at this moment in time, that is not applicable for this department. The bulks and how we assist specifically the smaller municipalities. Bulk infrastructure is come to a big price to these municipalities, and the bigger municipalities have access to external funding and they can take up loans. But smaller municipalities and municipalities with not a big income base, and we can mention Cederberg there as well. The cost of providing infrastructure is very high. It's not a different price for products there, and sometimes it happens that their MIC allocations are not sufficient, and you cannot do half a pipe this year and next year another piece of pipe, and then the prices escalate a whole lot. We take this into cognizance, and when we evaluate those requests and how we can assist those smaller municipalities. Those municipalities sometimes lose out on other funding. For instance, the RBIC, the Rural Bulk Infrastructure Grant, where they must have co-funding. Now, that is also where the department comes in, and we will then leverage that if we've got money available to enable them to take up that grant. Well, as an example, the grant is 10 million rand that they can have access, but they need 10 million rand. So if we don't assist them and give them the 10 million, then they don't have access to the original 10 million. So we win both ways. We've got 20 million rand that we leverage with a 10 million rand investment. Thank you.
Chairperson, if I may just add there, thank you, Mr. De Wet. May I just add there that, of course, again, it comes from the Human Settlements Development Grant, our one pool of funding. And again, it does decrease opportunities elsewhere. But with regards to the informal settlements, we are also considering new and innovative ways, and we always present the municipalities with those opportunities. It still remains the local government's responsibilities to provide bulk services infrastructure. What we do, especially in the informal settlements, we do provide interim services, interim basic services, as well as shared services to those informal settlements, so they can at least have access to water and sanitation. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, HOD. Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just for a follow-up on the developing criteria for entering into partnership. Just for clarity, CFO, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that even if you are in partnership, there's going to be the service providers, whether being a plumber or, so how do you talk to that partnership that you have, ex-partnership service providers, they have to use the broad-based black economic empowerment. Sorry about that. Compliance to that, how do you monitor that? I know that is not your responsibility, but the relationship is between you and that ex-partner, and those service providers have to talk to what is the compliance. Don't you have the structured compliance that also talk to that partnership that the BBBE can be included in that? Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, if I may. Remember, Maseko, as soon as there's a procurement issue coming and contracts coming into place, then procurement and the BBBE comes into place as well. Partnership is supposed to be a partner. You're not expecting something in return to it. And sometimes people come and then they want to partner with us, and they will inform us who we must utilize as the service provider to implement the project. And that is where it's going wrong. So we will then rather not go into a partnership when somebody prescribes to us what to do and how to procure. Thank you.
Chairperson, if I may add to that, we also engage in partnership arrangements with landowners and other corporates or employers of persons who may qualify for subsidies. For example, in Breda Valley, we partnered with APL Cartons, where they provide funding for construction and possible land purchase for their employees to create housing opportunities or enable housing opportunities for their employees. Though, of course, the individuals must still comply with the qualification criteria as indicated in the Housing Code. We also partnered with Langeberg Municipality or industries in that area and farmers in that area, where land was also provided, creating some 520 opportunities for farmers and other employees in the areas. So those are the types of partnerships that we, where we look at a reciprocal benefit for both the person providing those resources, or the company or individual, as well as our department enabling housing opportunities being created through those partnerships. Thank you.
Thanks very much, HOD. Now, honorable members, can we move to section E, to part E of the report? Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. On page 207, under note 24, note 24 on this particular page of the annual report refers to irregular expenditure, and two parts of the irregular expenditure. It indicates there that specifications in its nature restricted other potential suppliers to respond to the tender invitation, as the specification stated that the bidders that do not have an office in the Western Cape will not be considered for the tender. So I just wanted to find out, Chair, because 2 out of the 4 relates to the fact that the bidders do not have an office in the Western Cape, and that it will not be considered if you do not have an office. And it seems as if this particular investigation relates to what happens when you say that the person must be from the Western Cape. Now, Chair, in the beginning, not beginning, but somewhere last year, we had quite a lengthy session on local bidding and procurement and so on, and the advantages of local procurement and local content. And we also heard throughout last year that the local content refers to South Africa and not specifically to the Western Cape, for example, or Cape Town or Laingsburg or whichever area one is in. Now, my question is, why would it be a problem if the Western Cape wanted to procure from Western Cape businesses and entrepreneurs from the Western Cape? Because it seems that is currently the problem, that we want to spend Western Cape money on Western Cape businesses and entrepreneurs. Or I can be corrected if I'm incorrect in this manner. And then a second part of that question for me is, what happens now in 2021 and onwards, where many businesses and entrepreneurs are working from home? They're closing down their physical offices, their physical buildings, in order to save money, in order to keep their enterprise running, in order to ensure that they can keep their livelihoods going, as well as the livelihoods of their employees. Will this mean that if the Western Cape wanted to procure from Western Cape businesses and entrepreneurs, that automatically it would be considered irregular expenditure, as what it seems on page 207 of the annual report. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks very much, Honorable Advocate, Honorable America.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions, Chair. One being, it is flags that the grants allocated to municipalities, and in some municipalities, oversight was sort of flagged as a problematic area, and subsequently those municipalities were identified, and the increased sort of oversight was exercised over those municipalities in terms of them using the grant for what it is being allocated for. Nowhere do we get a sense of the outcome of that sort of increased vigilance and oversight those municipalities. And I'd like to know whether the desired outcomes was achieved with the sort of identification of those problematic municipalities. And then lastly, Chair,
which page is this question?
I don't have a specific page because it is saying the financial statements.
We passed that, but anyway, I saw a question, a report like that in section C, but it's fine. I thought maybe you might have seen it somewhere here now in section E.
It's there, Chair. Believe me. So the last question, Chair, in terms of the contingent liability, and we stated that possible settlement negotiations is being conducted, and the outcome is not sort of certain yet. Can the department provide us with a sort of update in terms of how soon will these negotiations be concluded? And then the last question I wanted to ask, you sort of interrupted my thread of thought.
Apologies.
I'll get back to it. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
If it comes up, maybe it can come up again as a follow-up. No problem.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Maseko. Thank you very much, Chair. On page 194, on the notes, the 6.2 is the debts written off, and it explains the nature of the debts.
That's page, you say it's page, sorry, which page?
Page 194.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair. And there it says the other debt written off of 2.114 are in respect of account administration of the PHP who received funds but did not complete the specific projects. And all attempts to recover the funds were unsuccessful and written off in line with the departmental delegation. So that is the note on 6.2. Then in page 197, before I go to 197, I just want to find out if the PHP that was there, that is the reason, because I see the 2018-2019 financial year, it was 4.7. And that it didn't sort of indicate to the department as a risk. What is it that they're going to do different so that we then have this to write this off and that amount that can be used for something else, it gets to be written off by the department. But why I'm asking this is on page 197, maybe if I can conceptualize it, I'm seeing that under the claims recoverable, there is the amount of the private enterprises mainly relates to the fraudulent use of PHP subsidies, which were held in trust by account administrators. Now there, the PHP, there is amount that is held as a claim recoverable, but you, on the other page, there is the same PHP, there is a debt that is written off. Just for the layman, just to understand why there is an allocation, even though you have to write off the money, the debt has to be written off all the time. Can it be used somewhere else? Or why is that happening? Or is it a 5-year project that you have put in money in, or what is happening? Just for me to have an understanding about that communication to each other, about the PHP.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable America, you coming back?
No, I'm good, Chair. Thank you. Probably not that important.
Minister and HOD.
Thank you.
Chairperson.
Thank you. Sorry, Minister.
From our side, I think I'll give all the answers here to the accounting officers, the HOD, but I do think an important question I did pick up on was the one from Member Massey or from Member Bartman regarding the issue of ensuring that tenders are only given to people in the Western Cape, which is something which we actually got into trouble for at some stage. And I do think it's important to note, Chair and members, because if we talk about local economic empowerment, you start first at your own home. In this case, it's our province. So it was actually quite odd to note that in the report. Thank you very much, HOD.
Thank you, Minister. Chairperson, I'll hand over to the CFO to respond to the 3 members' questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, members, for the questions. The irregular expenditure part relates to a tender that we put out in 2015 to appoint people on professional service providers on a framework. We as a department, our procurement strategy was in line with the general procurement guidelines, whereby we could target local
CFO. We lost.
I think we lost CFO, Chair.
We've lost the CFO.
Okay.
Apologies. Thank you.
Apologies, Chairperson. Must I start from this beginning?
Yes, please.
Okay. Chairperson, right, okay, we as a department, in order for us to enhance service delivery and to make processes shorter, we embarked on framework agreements with professional service providers as well as contractors. The professional service providers, when we put out the contract, the tender out in the newspapers and other structures, we didn't indicate it's only for the Western Cape. But the tender document itself, one of the criteria was that they must have a office in the Western Cape. Okay, that was in line with the general procurement guidelines issued by the National Treasury, and that was specifically to promote a local economy. Now, what the AG found is that we deviated from our own strategy. So what happened there? There was some companies that didn't have an office in the Western Cape that also submitted their bids. What we should have done, we should have not appoint him, but we did appoint him to have more people on the framework. And that is where the problem comes in. So there might have been companies that wanted to submit and do business in the Western Cape, but when they saw that clause, they decided against that. And that is why they say we were not fair and transparent when we awarded it. So all the expenditure that we incurred up to 2018-19 was then declared irregular, and that's the one amount. And then everything within 2018-19, that is the audit under review that we have to report, is then the second part, the second big amount that is lying there. So we accepted it. It will have impact on this year's financial statements as well, because that all that expenditure that we're still incurring is still irregular. What have we done in the meantime? We've sent it through to the Provincial Treasury for condonement, as there was no losses to the department. It was a bona fide error by the department, and all the expenditure that we still incur on those contracts will be then regarded as irregular. In the meantime, we also advertised a new framework contract, and we took that specific clause out. As with all our other tenders, that clause is not in our tender documents anymore. So we are not, we're trying to resolve that specific issue. Thank you. Then the oversight in the municipalities, we did find that some municipalities, and we are always advised by our other assurance providers like Internal Audit, Provincial Treasury, as well as the AG, based on the audit outcomes and what the findings were in municipalities, that some municipalities might have be a risk. We are still accountable for all that funding that we transfer to the municipalities. It is actually, they are acting as implementing agents of the department, and so we are still accountable. So when contractors start moaning that they are not being paid, and we know that we've paid the money over, then we know there's a problem, and then we will step in. We will liaise with those municipalities. We have meetings with them, and then we will decide with them that we will rather pay those contractors then directly, because it's too much of a risk, and we don't want our projects to stand still and money being utilized for something else. But that's the last resort, and we work closely with Treasury and the Department of Local Government when we implement such measures. Just on the future for working from home, Member Bartman, that will not impact, because we will not be utilizing that clause of only in the Western Cape. We can still do it when we target specifically, for instance, on projects, HDIs and so on, and that is, if you read that legislation and that guidelines, it was actually the purpose of that specific guidelines. The contingent liability of 87 million has been in our books now for the past 20 years, I think, or 18 years. That is with the Houston Sea Farms. They bought a piece of land from us in Houston where they wanted to build a sea farm, and then they changed their model, and they wanted to include all other stuff except the empowerment part. In the meantime, we've negotiated with them, and there was agreement reached on 15 hectares of land that will be made available to them. We are currently busy with the rezoning of that land. We got the approval from agriculture to take it away from general agricultural land, and as soon as the subdivision has been done and the transfer has taken place and the agreement signed, then everything will be resolved. But the liability of 87 million rand is the worst case, and it will not impact on the department. The debt written off, Member Maseko, there's a whole process that we follow. Years ago, we had this agreements that we had with support organizations and private accounts administrators. That is when we started with PHP. We did learn our lesson. Lots of money were lost, but you cannot just write off. We still have to do all kinds of investigations, and it's at the end it's submitted to the state attorney, and they will give us then the go-ahead of writing off. It's normally we write it off when there is no possibility to claim back to get the money back. It won't help us to keep it in our books, and unfortunately it does cost money, because if you write something off, you must pay for it. So when we have some money available and we've got the necessary approvals in place, we will write it off. The one that is there under claims recoverable, that one is still in process, and as soon as we get those approvals in place, and it's recommended for write-off, we will do that subject to the availability of funding. Yeah, I think that is all the questions that was posed to the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Chairperson, you are on mute.
Oh, apologies. I think there's a follow-up. Is it
Yes,
Honorable?
Chairperson, there is.
Is Honorable Maseko, Honorable Bartman, and Honorable America in that order?
Thank you very much. Chair, I just want to find out with the explanation from CFO. Now, on the claims recoverable, I'm going to make an example about the Beaufort West municipality. There is an amount of money of 1.9 that was given to the municipality to, I think it was the toilets, if I still remember well, and then you can correct me if this was for something else. And that service didn't get delivered like it was anticipated. Now you have to recover that money, and I don't. My take is that you don't have to do investigation for a very long time because you can see if they implemented what they are going to do. So in that case, how do you fast track? Because you can't spend a lot of time trying to recover until it falls under the debts written off, falls under that policy for you to can write off that debt. So what is it? Are you recovering the money from the municipality, or if there was a corruption involved, are you going to recover that money from the individuals within municipality that were responsible for that project? And if that's the case, how are you going to go about? And how long do you allocate the time for the department to recover the money that has been allocated for the project X in municipalities that they didn't use it accordingly? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. And I think I just want to make sure that I'm on the same WhatsApp group as the CFO. So in terms of the irregular expenditure, we as the Western Cape put out a tender. The National Treasury notes and regulations says that local content is a company anywhere in South Africa and South African content. Okay. We have appointed a company in line with the National Treasury notes and regulation. Okay. The amounts, the two amounts are considered irregular because we asked for extra that it's also the company or the business has an office in the Western Cape. Now, Chair, to my knowledge, and please, the CFO must correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, there's no law that says we can't ask for a company to have an office in the Western Cape, okay? So above the extra requirements that we wanted the company to have an office in the Western Cape, it is now considered irregular expenditure because the company, even though it's local content in terms of the National Treasury regulation, does not have an office in the Western Cape. Chair, I just want to make sure that I'm on the same WhatsApp group as the CFO.
Thanks, Honorable America.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, a question that also relates to regular expenditure. We had irregular expenditure with an opening balance of 3.278 million rand. Subsequently, the department requested that that amount ought to be condoned. Now, I don't know when that application was made to the Department of the Premier for investigation. What's the status of that sort of requests for condonement, and were there any subsequent amounts from the previous financial year requested to be condoned? And if so, what's the outcome on where in the sort of process is that sort of application now? And from the current financial year under review, bar the concerns raised by Honourable Bartman, were any of those amounts sort of applied to be condoned in line with our sort of regulations? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable America. HOT and CFO.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mrs. Maseko, Honourable Member Maseko, the Beaufort West one, the municipality came back to us. And after we've looked at those contracts, the contracts was not very clear, okay, what needs to be done. We acknowledge that there was some work done.
Sorry, Chair. The more the CFO talks, the more he moves away from the mic. It's like he's in the hole. If you can come closer to the mic, please.
Will do. Thank you. My apologies. We had discussions with the municipality and with the provincial treasury. And although we paid them 1.915 million rand for work to be done on toilets, and we didn't receive what we wanted to achieve with that intervention and with that funding, the contract that we entered, or the agreement that we entered with the municipalities, was very vague on what is the delivery and what is the cost. And unfortunately, there was, when the project was also discussed and conceptualized, those minutes are also not very clear. What we have done at this moment in time is that we are assessing what is the value of the work that was done by the municipality, and then we will take it from there. But currently, as it stands, and we will be advised by our legal team how to take it further. But the amount of 1.915, not all of it was lost. It is the product that we got and so on, and the price that is a problem. We will keep the committee up to date with any further progress on that specific one. But that is where we stand at this moment on that specific one. On the process with Member Bartman on the irregular expenditure, the issue was that we deviated from our own strategy, how we wanted to implement it and what we wanted to achieve. And our tender document stated that you must have an office. If we stood by that specific clause and not appoint people that was not that didn't have the office like we've done, then it would not have been an issue. So that is what and I hope we are now in the same WhatsApp group, because otherwise I'll have to give a formal written response to that specific one. Then on the condonement of the 3.278 million rand, that was in respect of a investigation and sanctioned by the Department of the Premier. We did submit an application for a condonement to the Provincial Treasury. We were reminded that it is not us to ask for condonement, but the Department of the Premier. Subsequently, and we received today a confirmation from Forensic Services that the Department of the Premier gave that assurance and recommended that amount to be condoned. There was no losses for the department or for the state in that case. All other cases of irregular expenditure were submitted for condonement, and we are awaiting the outcome of that process. The process has changed. It was the condonement was done and at the accounting officer level, but it was subsequently changed, and Provincial Treasury must condone all these irregular expenditure as identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks very much, CFO and HOD Minister. Are there any further questions, honorable members? Honorable Partner.
Thank you, Chair. Not a question. I just wanted to let the CFO know, yes, we are now on the same WhatsApp group. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Honorable Partner. Honorable HOD, any issue you'd like to raise, maybe in general?
Honorable Chairperson, thank you for the honor. From our side, I think that we are covered. It is indeed a pleasure to respond to our performance, and the questions raised were very relevant, especially on the irregular expenditure. And the whistleblowing issue remains an issue for us because it's very lopsided with the whistleblower being protected, but the accusations made against officials are not often that we are not protected from. So thank you to the Chairperson and the members for the questions. From our side, there's nothing more we'd like to add to this discussion. Thank you.
Maybe before I will maybe give to the Minister. Just also maybe a general question then from my side. Maybe I was thinking maybe you might touch on that. Now, you know, contrary to the report to the department we've just seen before you, you've got a clean audit. And I think in the report of the audit committee, I think it was section 5 of that report, is also mention of the issues that the audit does look into the issues of finance and performance and so on. Now, in having looked at those things, the Auditor General, that have been looked by the Auditor General, you've got a clean audit. Obviously, there should be something beyond clean audit. Now, of course, in spite of the clean audit that we are having, we still have those challenges, you know. So maybe it's also something maybe I will also raise with the members when we deal also with issues of the resolution as to how do we balance the issue of clean audit and service delivery. I know maybe it might be something that the minister will give when he's closing his remarks. Maybe I would like to get a response from you. And thereafter, I will ask the audit as well as the Auditor General if there are any other general issues that you'd like to raise or comment before we give to the minister. HOD. Yes, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, we have been requested to look at not just compliance, but what is the impact on service delivery. And for the citizenry out there, they don't want to know we've provided 100 houses or 100 sites. They want to feel that there's an impact on their lives, an improvement in their living condition. If one listens to even Member Marie's question, we are, however, constrained by the limited resources we have. So what we want to look at is how we maximize and optimize the use of our limited resources to make maximum impact. and so that we can record and report on what is the quality, not just the quantity of our delivery. So we are looking at that. Of course, we have to consider governance issues and what is the performance evidence when one looks at looking at service delivery above just compliance. So that's still a discussion we are having at provincial level as well. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, HOD. Audit Committee Chairperson or any member, are there any issues that you'd like to raise just in general regarding the department?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fine. I've got no further comments.
Thank you very much. AG, Mrs. Adams. AG.
My side, I'm covered. Any further comments? Thank you. Chairperson, from my side, I'm covered. No further comments. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam. Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thank you to all the members, the Internal Audit Committee Chair and representatives from the Auditor General's Office. And I think you did ask me to allude to the cost of compliance versus real service delivery. And what we have experienced as a service delivery department, once you start engaging communities, they want to see something that's tangible, but also something that is measurable. And I do believe if you look at the way that the current auditing fraternity is assessing the effectiveness of government, it is more focused on compliance than the impact of the expenditure that government has incurred. It must be in the interest of its citizenry. And if you look at my department, but if you look at the province as a whole, I think for the last 10 years, we have shown continuously that all of our departments have the ability to translate expenditure in the broader interests of the citizenry of the Western Cape. So at some stage, one will need to come to a vantage point with the internal audit committees, but also the Auditor General to say, okay, as a Western Cape department, you know, we are complying to standards which in other areas it's difficult for them to attain the basics of that standard. Yet we've also managed to ensure that even with finite resources, that we do deliver to the citizenry of the Western Cape. And I do believe the measurement matrices that the auditors use, they will need to start measuring the impact of the expenditure of government. I think we have seen this through COVID-19, where if you engage communities, they will ask you, what have we done? What can we feel? What can we touch? And I think that is the human factor which the auditing fraternity needs to look at. We have looked at compliance, yes, but what is the quality? Are we enhancing the quality of our citizens' lives? Then we are talking real impactful governance. Thank you very much, Chair. And to you and your committee, I wish you a blessed year. It's going to be a difficult year. We all know they started off that way. But I think if you all focus and we work together in the interest of the citizens, we can still be compliant, but we need to start now doing real service delivery. These two can be balanced out. It's how we attain the balance. That's the crucial question at the end of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think let me also make use of the opportunity just to thank the audit committee and the work that they have done together with the department, and also thank the Office of the Auditor General as well for their presence as well as the work that they keep on doing. I always keep on saying that they are a dependable ally that we are always depending on. So we are looking forward to continue having that relationship with them. HOD, thank you very much together with your team. Some of the questions that we are posing, I always say that we are not posing them just for the sake of posing or want to catch you up. We just want to actually assist you also in making sure that you deliver on the services that we know that we are also committed into delivering into the community. Minister, thank you very much for always being available.
Chairperson?
Now, yes, Honorable Maseko.
Thank you very much. If you can indulge me for just a minute, is it okay with you?
Yes.
Before you release the department, I forgot to really, and it's my apologies to the department, because I said I wanted to, as the chair, to congratulate them for the clean audit, and to really say to them, you know, we always say that we are, sorry, Chair. We always say that we are the human settlements. We are a family that we care about the communities. And also, this is one of the departments, I say it again and again, that it's not appreciated enough, but it's at the heart of every community in every town. So for them to, even under the struggles, under the examples of Beaufort West, the Beto, for them to have a clean audit, we have to salute the department and say, please stay on the clean audit even the coming financial year. Make the chairperson's job to be easier with the caliber of people that are in the department, in your leadership, of course, Minister and the HOD. So thank you very much, CFO. My favorite CFO, not forgetting your contribution also. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko, for that words of thanks to the department. I think in a way, Honorable America did do that on your behalf, but it's always good to go for the second bite. Let me make use of the opportunity once again, honorable members, to thank the audit committee, the Auditor General, as well as the department, together with the minister. Thank you very much. We are now going to allow you to be released, to be excused, so that we can continue with the business of the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, HOD.
Bye.
Sure.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, CFO.
Okay, honorable members, I want us now to deal with our resolutions. Are there any resolutions that members would like to propose? I see Honorable America, Honorable Maseko, in that order. Honorable America.
Sorry, Chair, that was an old hand.
Okay.
I'll get back to you. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, Honorable Maseko.
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, I just want us to zoom on the recovery of the monies that are out there, because I'm a little bit worried that it will be the modus operandi of some of the municipalities that they receive the money and it doesn't get used to where it's supposed to. Then it goes on and on until the debt gets written off. So if we can zoom so that we can see and get empowered how we can enforce that the departments, they take that as a priority to make sure they inform the municipalities to know that if they receive the money for 20 toilets, they have to give 20 toilets and not 3 and spend $1 million for 3 toilets. So, because if that happens, we have to have something in place to recover that money. If we don't hold ourselves, because I'm saying ourselves is a government, local government is a government. If we don't hold individuals that are responsible, that are attaching their signatures to make sure that that doesn't happen again, we will never be able to eradicate the untoward behavior, if I can say maybe the corruption within some of the project, within some of the municipalities when coming to the human settlements project. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maseko. Maybe just also to amplify your point further, I think if we look at page 85 of the governance section of the report, they do have a list of the municipalities that they say that the department has actually allocated funds, and they subsequently visited these municipalities. And then there were still others that were outstanding that they did not visit. Maybe if we can get the list of this, and maybe what has been the response from all these municipalities, and then maybe have that as an item formally in one of our SCOPA meetings, and we take a resolution as to how do we deal with it after we have received the report.
Agree, Chair.
Agree, Chair.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Any other resolution? If there is no further resolution, I think the procedural officer has managed to capture that, those. Honorable Maseko.
Another one, Chair, it will be the discussion on the emerging risks that the audit committee highlighted of the extended pressure of safety-related resources towards xenophobia, the emergence, the emerging community development forums, and the community non-cooperation when it's required to be removed for the construction to commence. If we can have that engagement of how that is going to happen, how are they going to mitigate that? Because it looks like it cuts across the different departments. So if we can have a share of how is the Department of Human Settlements itself going to mitigate to get that correct, that will be an interesting one, so that we don't get a lot of, when we get the report, we get the community dynamics. If the project is not implemented, it gets behind community dynamics. So there need to be proactive actions that are being implemented so that we can reduce the percentage of community dynamics for the projects. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. I think that's a good one also in terms of the risks that were identified by the department, and how do they intend mitigating those risks, because they can have very serious and adverse effect on the delivery of housing and human settlement agenda in general. I think that's also a good one. Now, if there are no further resolution then on this matter, honorable members, that means that brings us to the end of our meeting for purposes of looking at the annual report of the Human Settlement Department. Thank you very much, honorable members. The meeting is closed.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks.
You are the best, Chair.